The taste of a dish is paramount for Chinese people who enjoy a wide variety of cuisines and flavors. And they are always looking for inspiration for change in both. On a clear day, Yao Guiwen carries shallow bamboo baskets up to the roof to air the balls of tofu that he and his wife made several days ago. Some of the tofu balls have already turned a light yellow, but they still need to ferment a few days more. They will be ready when the crust turns dark brown and hard. Wang Tuihua wraps the fresh tofu tightly with gauze and squeezes the water out. She has to work quickly without a break to ensure the fresh tofu doesn't sour. Yao Guiwen must precisely control the charcoal fire. In the old days, the town was of strategic significance in southwestern China, but today, it's not so glamorous. Like many small cities in Yunnan, Jianshui has a mixture of ethnic groups, each with their own unique culture. The heat from the charcoal makes the hard-crusted tofu quickly swell, just as bread dough does when rising. People in Jianshui especially like this kind of air-dried fermented tofu. Locals eat tofu dipped in various sauces, but Yao Guiwen is mostly concerned about the quality of the tofu itself. Tofu ferments easily in the warm river valley, and the dry air keeps it from going bad for a long time. Yao pays more attention to the weather than most people because the natural conditions affect the quality of his tofu. Around the famous Daban well, women make tofu by hand. Water is essential in making tofu, and Jianshui boasts 128 wells. Chinese people know the importance of water to their health. Tofu and the water have a relationship that is sublime. Tofu from the town of Shiping, less than 40 kilometers from Jianshui, is very different from that made in Jianshui. Shiping tofu comes in larger sizes and the texture is tougher. Shiping tofu also stays fresh for a long time with just a little salt. Yunnan province is not a major soybean producer, but it has a long history of tofu production. A piece of tofu for a kernel of corn. A happy sale on a sunny morning.
质量够10帕，咱质量够得最高。质量够10帕钱，比商场够高。
Wu Xuebing is going to the county seat to sell his tofu at the morning market. Shou is a county seat in northern Anhui, where the locals are particularly fond of tofu. In fact, they are sure their ancestors invented it. It's mid-October in northern Anhui province, and that means that by now the soybean harvest is in the silos. Tofu made with fresh soybeans sells very well. Soybeans, which have long been grown in China, are inexpensive and they have a higher protein content than any other type of found in the secret formulas of Chinese. People got the idea of adding gypsum to make tofu from them. Many people believe that a local ruler accidentally invented tofu some 2,000 years ago. It is said that this occurred while he was attempting to make immortality pills from soybean milk. As soon as he put some gypsum in the soybean milk, it began to coagulate. Whatever the case, the invention of tofu greatly changed the future of soybeans. Tofu goes well with many other ingredients. The polysaccharides and phytic acid in raw soybeans are indigestible, but in the process of making tofu, they are removed. The remaining soybean protein is very digestible. Chinese chefs are all good at cooking tofu. In some In late September, the lush green of the Uju Muqing grasslands fades. Meng Ke and his family herd their livestock to pasture for the last time before winter. It's already very cold in late autumn, so local herdsmen burn cow dung for warmth. Milk tea is an indispensable part of their breakfast. They make it with tea leaves, butter, fried rice, and fresh milk. Another important part of their breakfast is milk curds, which they prepare several days ahead of time. Vegetables are scarce on the grasslands, so locals get their vitamins and minerals from the milk tea and milk curds. Meng Ke has a cow named Mudu that is nursing a calf. Mother must let the cow feed its calf before she milks the cow. Fresh milk ferments easier when the weather's warm, so she races against the coming winter. Mother ladles off the butter on the surface. The milk forms curds through fermentation. The protein and whey in the milk separate out when it's boiled. Herdsmen feed the whey to their animals. The milk is constantly stirred to prevent it from sticking to the bottom. When the whey has been removed, Meng Ke pours the coagulated milk into molds. Meng Ke carries a bowl of fresh milk curds to his grandfather. Several thousand kilometers south of Inner Mongolia in Yunnan, people use heavy chopsticks to make cow milk balls. The milk balls are formed into long strips and rolled onto a bamboo rack. In Dali, Yunnan, people of the Bai ethnic group make milk fans and air dry them in their courtyards. The milk fans resemble huge wind chimes. Over 800 years ago, Kublai Khan led his Mongol army to Yunnan, and some of his soldiers settled there. Their techniques for making dairy products have been passed down to the present time. Mother takes air-dried milk curds from a wooden box. Meat is very expensive in this area, so the staple foods on the grasslands are dairy foods. This Mongolian restaurant is located in downtown Beijing. Here, the most popular item on the menu is barbecued sheep back. This dish reminds diners of the difficult life on the faraway grasslands. But people on the grasslands actually eat more dairy products than meat. It's raining and near 0 degrees Celsius. The younger sister has found a missing lamb in the bushes. Their livestock represents the family fortune and are part of their lives. Meng Ke puts on a new robe for winter. The hot tea and milk curds help ward off the cold and hunger while he is out grazing the livestock. These binoculars were a war trophy collected by his grandfather. After Meng Ke's father died when he was only 3, he learned from his grandfather about taking care of the family's livestock. His grandfather told Meng Ke that he should be happy to be a good herdsman. When he jumps on his horse with a lasso pole, Meng Ke comes alive. Outside the grasslands, grazing land is replaced by farmland. In the past, few dairy products were produced. But with the spread of agriculture, people learned to get the protein they needed from plants. Chinese people living in farming areas formerly ate very little meat. They learned to obtain their protein from plants. Some monks are cooking a meal in a Buddhist temple on Tian Tai Mountain in Zhejiang province. They live a simple and impoverished life, eating only vegetarian food, which is a part of their religious practice. Only Buddhist monks of the Han ethnic group are vegetarians. Over the past 1,000 years, their vegetarian recipes have had a profound impact on Chinese vegetarianism. Tofu is a nutritious and healthy kind of vegetarian food. Soybeans contain as much protein as meat, and this makes it a favorite with vegetarians. In ancient China, people believed that eating tofu had a calming effect. It was also believed that those who made it understood the principle of going back to nature. People in southern Anhui province lead tranquil and conservative lives due to the area's unique geographical environment and warm, wet climate. They eat some very unusual foods, such as this white fluff, which is actually tofu. This isn't the peak season for making fluffy tofu, so the batch made by Fang Xingyu's family will sell out before noon. The dense look of the fluffy tofu makes it look rather like the fur of an animal. And indeed, this fur is a living thing. It's from a type of fungus called mucor. Fang Xingyu has handed over most of the management of the family tofu mill to her eldest daughter. Her mother hopes she will be a good manager. The surface of the soybean milk begins to coagulate. Soybean milk skin contains a lot of fat, and this is not needed when making tofu. The oily skin is removed with chopsticks and air-dried to make a delicious byproduct. The most important ingredient in making fluffy tofu is the brine. Acidic substances can also be used, but local tofu makers use brine, which they produce themselves. Microbes in the brine act like seeds in the tofu. Making tofu is hard work. Diners come and go. The elder sister comes last when her meal is already cold, and her younger sister keeps her company while she eats. The life of this mother and daughter has always revolved around the family tofu mill. Fang Xingyu does not make fluffy tofu during the hot, humid summer because at that time fermentation is hard to control. But in Huizhou, any other season will do. Fan Xingyu wants to pass all her skills and experience on to her eldest daughter. The fluff indicates that the mold, yeast and bacteria are developing in harmony, which directly affects the taste of the tofu. Among Huizhou food connoisseurs, fluffy tofu is a favorite. Eating it can be simple or very complicated. Older Huizhou residents simply like to add a little chili sauce to it. Fermentation totally changes the tofu, breaking down proteins into peptones, peptides and amino acids, which gives fluffy tofu its unique flavor. Huizhou people call it their hometown flavor. The tiny particles in the fluffy tofu are an indicator of its maturity. Chinese people learned how to make use of these microorganisms a very long time ago. Alcoholic beverages are also produced by using microorganisms. Rice wine is one of the oldest alcoholic beverages in the world. The late autumn rain in Shaoxing is a good omen for winemakers. Yeast grows best in long but mild winters along the lower reaches of the Yangtze River. In an old workshop, winemakers are busy preparing ritual objects to worship the god of wine. Even experienced winemakers cannot always brew high-quality wine because of the vagaries of temperature, wind, air, and bacteria. The winemakers hold a ceremony like this every year to pay their respects to nature. The winemaking season in Shaoxing is at hand. The mold converts the starch in the rice into sugar, and the yeast converts the sugar into alcohol. It's as if the yeast is singing. The longer the fermentation, the better the rice wine will be. Rice wine drinkers judge the wine by its gentleness and firmness in the mouth. Shaoxing residents that drink rice wine are very laid back. They take time to savor the traditional flavor of the wine on the tips of their tongues. Soy sauce is an indispensable condiment for Shaoxing residents, and it's used in almost everything. The salt in the soy sauce keeps cooked food from spoiling, and the soy sauce gives food a strong fragrance that the locals love. The area has been a good place to live since ancient times. Many people today build their houses next to the canal. Sausages hung on bamboo poles to dry can be seen all over the town of Anchang. Anchang sausages are famous in the provinces of Jiangsu and Zhejiang. The secret to their flavor is the locally brewed soy sauce. In this courtyard, there are about 100 vats of fermenting soy sauce. They're all tended by 56-year-old Ding Guoyun. The thick and sticky soy sauce is regularly stirred to ensure uniform fermentation. These vats have been used to make soy sauce for decades. Under the strong sunlight, the microbes in the soy sauce become very active, but rain can ruin everything. For this reason, the lids need to be removed from time to time. Soy sauce is a unique fermented product. It's been an important item in cooking and flavoring food in China for millennia. In northeast China, soy sauce is used differently. There's not much of it left in Wang Yueying's vat. It's not been frozen because of its high salt content. Operations. They crush boiled soybeans, the only raw material, directly in the pot. Heilongjiang province has the most fertile land in the country, but due to the climate, the growing season is very short. Despite this, Heilongjiang produces the best soybeans. 3 people sit on a heated bed kneading soybean paste into brick shape. They then tie them and hang them on the wall. They will leave them there for 2 months. Next spring, they will undergo further fermentation. In winter, northern China is extremely cold. This is due to high atmospheric pressure in Mongolia. And this time of year, locals preserve Chinese cabbage by fermenting it 30 days in a vat to make Chinese sauerkraut. During the nearly 7 months of winter, this will be the most common item on the dinner table. The sour juice is squeezed out of the cabbage to remove the bitter taste of the brine and make it crispier. The aroma of Chinese sauerkraut is mouth-watering. The oxalic acid and proteins are broken down into peptides and amino acids during fermentation. They are responsible for the delicious flavor of Chinese sauerkraut. The best way to eat Chinese sauerkraut is with pork. Most people in northeast China are not so concerned about the appearance of their food. Their eating habits are as direct as their personality. Today, children are going home to visit their parents. The main item for the family's feast on the eve of Chinese New Year is dumplings stuffed with sauerkraut. Chinese people have brought about imaginative changes and added new flavors to their cuisine while enhancing the nutritional content. This has greatly added to the Chinese culture.